Welcome, French crime-fighting sleuths, to Geek Salad's Retro Reviews from the Geek Salad Podcast. I'm Andy.
And I'm Mike.
And tonight, we conclude our September of comedy blind spots. And now this was kind of an audible that Mike called. He actually called it a few weeks ago, so I don't know if I'd really call it an audible. But after we reviewed the Pink Panther at the beginning of the month, we realized, kind of it was a little underwhelming.
Yeah.
Based on what our expectations were. And we had also heard that out of all of the Clouseau movies that Peter Sellers did, that A Shot in the Dark, which is what we're reviewing tonight, is actually the best Sellers Clouseau movie. In fact, probably the best Clouseau movie when you factor in all the other actors who played Clouseau or some variation of Clouseau.
Yeah. This one's actually got a 94% on Rotten Tomatoes. So
yes. And I will say this movie did not disappoint.
No, it was very funny.
It was very funny. It's what I wanted the Pink Panther to be.
Yeah.
Mainly because you didn't have the distraction of, and I have nothing against David Niven. David Niven is surprisingly adept at comedy, considering that he's also a serious actor. But I wasn't expecting, nor did I really need that, the gentleman thief in the Pink Panther. So to finally get a pure Clouseau movie, which was released immediately after the Pink Panther, was really, really refreshing. And it was really nice to see Peter Sellers be able to flex his improvisational skills.
Yeah. Whereas, in Pink Panther, Peter Sellers was not the star. It was definitely David Niven. He was just a secondary character. But everyone realized, people didn't really much care for the main characters. People like this as a Clouseau guy. So, plus Peter Sellers is just a comedic genius. So,
yeah, exactly. And this movie really allows him to shine. There's a lot of great stuff that when you read the trivia about certain scenes, I mean, they really just went for broke on making sure that the comedy worked. And the interesting thing about this comedy is for the first half of the movie, it does play out more like a straight narrative.
Yeah.
And then towards the end, as the murders start happening, it gets way more slapstick, way more episodic.
For me, the switch kind of takes place when Clouseau gets to the nudist colony.
Yes. Which is such a 60s. Oh my God.
This very much so.
Is not as early 60s as the Pink Panther, but it is pretty 60s. This came out the same year Dr. Strangelove came out. 64 was a great year for Peter Sellers. Dr. Strangelove is an amazing movie and one that eventually we will have to cover.
Never seen. I'm not the biggest Kubrick fan.
What's that? This is Kubrick before he really got insane.
Oh, okay.
And to torture Shelley Duvall on the set of The Shining for just shits and giggles. Again. Yeah. What I really liked about this movie, first of all, again, it focuses on Clouseau, it focuses on the shenanigans, but it creates that build of characters which will be with him throughout his tenure as Clouseau. Dreyfus and
Kato.
And Kato, yeah. Kato, whose name spelling changes all the time.
I thought it was Kato, but apparently in this movie it's Cato.
Yeah, changes throughout.
Yeah. And honestly, I knew Dreyfus was a regular kind of foil to Clouseau in a sense, but I didn't realize he went full nervous breakdown in this movie. I thought that was something that he built to in later movies.
Yeah, nope. It's always been that way. But it's really, even his introduction is really funny where he has that loving conversation.
Oh yeah.
And then he tells the secretary that his wife needs to hold, and then he just goes and he talks to his mistress.
Yeah. Yeah, he's talking. Oh, I'll see you soon, my love. I love you. It's
your wife is online too. Tell her to hold.
I was like, no, tell her I'm out.
Yeah, Herbert Lom as Dreyfus is a lot of fun. You can there's definitely the reasoning given behind his insanity, because Clouseau is, this really highlights the ineptness of Clouseau, and that he kind of stumbles ass backwards into everything.
Yeah, he in fact the entire like solution to the crime just it comes like okay, I brought you in, I'm going to declare the killer, and then it just everything just kind of falls apart, and like everyone reveals their secrets, and then he just looks out into having them all killed too.
Yep, exactly. Problem solved.
Yeah.
This is a great supporting cast as well. Elke Summer she's wonderful.
Yeah.
In this, a lot better than Capuchin, I feel, in terms of just overall compatibility. She did really convey that innocence really well.
Yeah. I mean, again, she, until like the News Colony, she just kind of seemed like she was a kind of just dazedly walking through the movie.
Yeah.
Really not until like they get in the car and they're driving away, they're just like, okay, now she's becoming like really an active participant in this mystery.
Right. Exactly. Because I mean, there was all the cute flirtation and stuff throughout that first half of the movie.
Yeah.
And you know, she just really she pairs so much better with Peter Sellers.
Yeah.
And then you've got George Sanders, who, you know, if you look down and hear that voice, you're like, that's George Sanders.
Yeah, and then you close your eyes, like, okay, it's Shere Khan.
Yes. Yeah. And he's fantastic.
Yeah.
You know what always blows me away about these early 60s movies is how insanely horny these movies are.
Oh, dude, that whole opening sequence with what was it, Shadow of Paris or whatever?
Yeah.
How like everybody's just like kind of going in and out of rooms, going through hallways. It's like it looked like good flowers and bottles of wine and cups, and it's like okay, everyone's having sex with everyone else in this movie.
Now, did you notice that is all one continuous shot?
I did notice that, yeah.
Up until there's one scene where they cut to show somebody kind of coming up a walkway. Up until that moment, that is one continuous shot. And it reminded me of Rear Window in terms of how that was shot when they did the scan shot all in one take of all the different, you know, tenants in the apartment across the street.
I gotta say, like, just seeing, like, because I really haven't seen a whole lot what Blake Edwards has directed. Just going off Pink Panther, I wasn't a big fan of his direction. This movie kind of turned me around a little bit on him, because there weren't those like that kind of like just the scenes just didn't kind of end and kind of like peter out. They, you know, there were actual cuts, there were actual, you know, links from here. It felt much more well directed than Pink Panther did.
It did. It felt he definitely felt more comfortable.
Yeah.
Doing a murder mystery hijinks movie versus a heist movie.
Yeah.
Definitely was well within his wheelhouse. And I really feel too like the entire team was better solidified. You know, with Mancini, with Peter Sellers. And the weird thing is too, is like this is the first time I've ever seen A Shot in the Dark. I have heard that theme before.
Yes. Same thing here. It's like, okay, that's not the Pink Panther theme, but I know I've heard this before. And it's still really good. I was kind of hoping for that the Pink Panther theme, but I'm like, I know this song and I like this song.
Right. You know what the thing is that it fit the tone better, because it is more of a, you know, intrigue type of song with you know, that didn't really have to rely on the saxophone the way that Pink Panther did. It really felt more like the Peter Gunn theme, even though the Peter Gunn theme is essentially surf guitar.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
Or the Bond theme. It kind of fits within that mold, and all the different versions of that. It's like they had the rights to 2 songs, the song at the beginning, and A Shot in the Dark.
If the soundtrack had more than like maybe 5 songs on that, I will be kind of surprised.
Yeah. But it was fun, though, especially in the nudist colony, listening to them kind of play like their early 60s version of the song.
Yeah. Hey, they were good guitars on there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it definitely sounded like that beach blanket bingo type of guitar music. Not surf guitar, but like beach guitar.
Yes.
And it was just really good. Now, did you know that this was based on a play?
I didn't until I looked it up, like either this morning or early last night.
Yeah. It was interesting. So it was a play, but they injected Clouseau into it because
L'Idiot or something like that.
I think so.
Yeah, L'Imbécile.
But the interesting thing is that the Clouseau character, the way that we know it today, didn't come about until after filming for the Pink Panther ended. Like, we had some of the affectation.
Yeah.
But we didn't have any of that. I think Blake Edwards wanted to kill Peter Sellers because of that. It's like, you were holding back on me?
Well, apparently, like, they did not, like, their relationship throughout the filming of this movie, it went downhill pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they were able to, fix it by the time they started doing the rest of the Pink Panther movies.
Right, which was in the 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they worked together again until then.
They did one movie together. I looked it up earlier today, and I'm trying to remember what it was.
I am pulling up Peter Sellers on IMDb.
The Party.
Sure. Oh, The Party. Okay.
Yeah, The Party, but that was 1968. So 4 years between this one and that one, and that's how long it took them to be able to work together again.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting watching this movie now, knowing everything that we do know, and the fact that it is completely removed from.
Yeah.
It's removed from the Pink Panther enough.
Yeah. In fact, that actually kind of threw me off, because like when Dreyfuss said, like, I got to bring Clouseau back in, and he's like, I thought it was like he was getting like shit because they like locked him up because of the Pink Panther thing, falsely in prison, but they didn't even mention the Pink
Never came out once. These movies all exist in a separate. Each movie, I think, exists in a separate universe.
Yeah, but I did really enjoy, especially the first appearance of Kato. Because he's in bed, and because you have no idea who this guy is. He's just like singing, and he starts trying to kill Clouseau. And then, like, they stop, and he answers the phone. He's like,
"Yep."
He's like breathing hard into the phone over Dreyfuss.
And I don't think I'm trying to remember if I've actually seen any of the other 3 Pink Panther sequels. I'm not 100% sure, but I want to say that this might be the only instance where Kato isn't a horrific stereotype.
I mean, he didn't say a whole lot, and
no, but when he did talk, though, he didn't have like that Chopsaki type of
it doesn't
accent. He didn't sound like Mickey Rooney in Breakfast at Tiffany's or anything like that.
And he didn't have like he was clean shaven. He didn't have that that
like the Fu Manchu or
the Charlie Chan thing going on.
Yeah.
Which I think he does have in later movies.
Oh dear.
Yeah, I mean, I just pulled up an image on Wikipedia of Burt Kwouk, who played him.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he's got like it shows a picture of him in a 1968 movie, and he's got the whole like kind of Charlie Chan mustache going on.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Hey, you don't want to be a working Asian actor in the 1960s.
Yeah, you did what you could.
Yeah. But I mean, overall, this is tough because we've kind of already encapsulated some of the Clouseau-ness of everything based on our review of the Pink Panther. Yeah. I will highly recommend this movie, though. I think that this movie is definitely worth your time. It is on Amazon. It is on Tubi. it is. So it's available no matter where you are getting it. So
in the first 15 minutes, I had more laughs than I did in the entirety of Pink Panther.
Yeah. Now let's talk a little bit about Clouseau, because we really didn't. I mean, we kind of like brought up some stuff about Clouseau, and we've talked about Steve Martin. So after Peter Sellers died in 1980, they had released I think 3 Pink Panther movies that weren't the Steve Martin ones. I'm going into Pink Panther right now, and I will tell you.
They did like a Son of the Pink Panther.
Well, yeah, that was in the 90s. So we have the Pink Panther, Return of the Pink Panther, Pink Panther Strikes Again, Revenge of the Pink Panther. All right, so there was the Trail of the Pink Panther.
Yeah, that was 82, so there was no way you were getting Sellers back for that
This
one.
was all like, yeah, I think Clouseau was lost or something like that. Yeah. And then after that, there was the Curse of the Pink Panther in 83, a year later.
Wow, I'm just I'm just looking at their entries. Trail of the Pink Panther actually brought back David Niven and Capuchin.
Yeah.
And Sellers' widow successfully sued Blake Edwards and MGM for tarnishing her late husband's memory. And the movie was a critical and commercial failure.
Oh yeah. Oh, all of those follow-ups were. And then after that, I'll just take a look here at. So after that, in 1993, we had The Son of the Pink Panther, which introduced American audiences to Roberto Benigni. Yeah. So first off, crime against humanity. That happened in the first place. I'm sorry. I am that whole bullshit with Benigni winning Best Actor over Ian McKellen solely so they could get that speech, which he had already done at the Golden Globes. Yeah. Biggest case of buyer's remorse in Academy history, I think. Yeah. And it's just like, all these other actors trying to pull off the Clouseau. We also see that there was a movie called Inspector Clouseau, which starred Alan Arkin.
Oh, I remember hearing about this, yes.
Yeah. I want to say that's on Tubi or Pluto. That's on one of the freebie channels. And this is before, I feel like this is like right around the time when Alan Arkin might have still been able to disappear into roles more so than, I think by the time he hit Yozarian in Catch-22, he was more like, this is your Alan Arkin type. Hey, what are you talking about? This is what I'm doing.
I mean, that was 68, and it didn't have Sellers in it, didn't have Blake Edwards. It was, I don't know how this was connected. It didn't even have Henry Mancini.
Yeah. So it was just kind of like, it's just, I think they were just trying to test the waters. What happens if Peter Sellers doesn't want to do these anymore? And obviously it got desperate enough for him where he did 3 more in the mid-70s. And then he did Being There, which is probably his best acting performance ever.
I've never seen that one.
Okay. Being There is brilliant. Absolutely need to watch. That is a must-watch. And then we enter the 2000s and we get Steve Martin as Clouseau. Bud Yorkin directed. Okay, Bud Yorkin. That is the name of. Oh, he directed that too.
You know what? Actually, it's weird. Just the other day, I caught like the ending of the first Steve Martin Pink Panther. And I mean, I don't mind it too much, mainly because I think I still love Steve Martin. Yeah. But he is a much more competent Clouseau than Sellers was.
I think it relies more on the dryness of Steve Martin's performance. But as I mentioned during the Pink Panther conversation, it's Steve Martin with a mustache.
Yeah.
How often do you see that? It doesn't. Steve Martin is one of those actors that it makes it very difficult to disappear into roles because he is such a commanding presence in and of himself. Even, you dye his hair jet black and you give him an amazing Alan Menken, Howard Ashman song to sing. It's still Steve Martin. Yeah. I love Steve Martin, so I'm not taking anything away from him. But when you're dealing with a character like this, now I'm just curious, is there a future for Clouseau? Does Clouseau ever come back?
That is an excellent question.
We're beyond a movie-going audience that has that deep reverence for Peter Sellers.
Yeah.
There can be movie nerds like myself, like you, like Kurt, who really appreciate the work of Peter Sellers. But if they bring him back, does that actually happen? What does that look like if it happens?
It's tough, mainly because that character is just so intrinsically tied to Peter Sellers. So you'd have to have somebody who either you'd have to do something like almost kind of like Will Smith in the live action Aladdin, where you kind of like do an homage to Peter Sellers, but you still try and make enough of your own.
Right. I mean, we know the necessity. You need the accent. The accent has to stay.
Yeah.
I think the trench coat has to stay.
Yeah, the bumblingness.
Right.
That's
well. I mean, we kind of got a slight version of that in Muppets Most Wanted.
Oh yeah, with what's his name?
Yeah, him from Modern Family, whose name I can't be bothered to remember.
Yeah.
So we've seen homages before, but
actually, I mean, it's kind of become a meme type thing, but a Muppet version of Pink Panther.
That would be interesting, but I think you need an independent Muppet for it. That can't be a Kermit thing or a Walter. That could be a Walter homage thing, but because they got to bring him back at some point. But just thinking about Clouseau, and it's really making my head hurt now, trying to figure out, is there a comedian who has that ability to improv, who has that? And it's not only that, though, because I feel like not only do you need a genius like Sellers, but you also need a genius like Blake Edwards. And let's be 100% honest here. It's a trifecta. Henry Mancini's dead.
Yeah.
Who can give you that Mancini sound, or at least something like that? Because the music is such a big part. That theme. You have to come up with a theme that is just so recognizable.
Yeah. It's not impossible, but it's pretty darn hard, and especially to make one that'll still do box office.
Right, exactly.
This is something you, especially since it doesn't really need to be like very effects driven. That might be something you test out the waters in like a streaming service.
Yeah,
before you try pushing it onto the box office.
You know who I just thought of who might actually be able to pull it off because he can pull off comedy as well as be a good actor? Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah. The only problem with that would be a lot of people would just be like trying to see Sherlock.
Yeah, I mean, he is still. I mean, the thing is, he is a little too recognizable for it. But when you think about the dearth of the performances he's had, not just as Doctor Strange or Sherlock Holmes, but of all these other characters. I mean, for Christ's sakes, he was nominated for 2 Oscars. I mean, the guy is definitely a chameleon. Sometimes he looks like a chameleon or an otter, but definitely.
How much comedy has he done though?
I think he can deliver that's the thing. I don't know what his physical comedy is like because the Hobbit was 10 years ago, and you see him in those voiceover sessions. He's jumping on a table and he's being very active, but he's in his 40s now. Does that happen? Yeah. I don't know, but that's just my 2 cents. I would love to see that. Get him to say penguins.
Actually, speaking of, I don't know how well he could do the accent, but Martin Freeman, he's getting up there too. But I think he's a little bit more adept with comedy.
Right. I mean, the one thing you got to remember is that Sellers was in his early 30s when he started Clouseau.
Yeah.
He died at 54 years old.
Really?
Yeah. Had a heart attack.
That's a tragic loss.
Yeah, it is. It is tragic too. I remember that was actually one of the first celebrity deaths I remember. But I feel like, yeah, there's definitely. I mean, there's somebody out there that we are just simply not thinking of. So
yeah, I'm
I think we leave it at that. I think we leave it to y'all and let us know in the comments, who would you cast as Inspector Jacques Clouseau?
Ooh,
who?
John Hamm. Don't know if you can pull off the accent, but
the thing is that Ham's got that face. He's got that Ham face. And plus now he's playing Fletch.
Really? You play Fletch?
Oh, okay. Mike, here's a recommendation for you. The new Fletch movie. I'll get the full name for you in a second. It was on Showtime, which I know if you don't have it, you have my logins for it. It is brilliant. It makes you completely forget. It's called Confess Fletch.
Huh.
So take a look to see where it's streaming right now.
What about Bill Hader?
I don't know. I almost feel like he might be, and this sounds ridiculous, he might be too tall for it. Thank you, Kurt. Yep, Confess Fletch. It is on Paramount and it is on Showtime.
Okay.
So definitely is worth your time. It's not as Chevy Chase. It doesn't have that Chevy Chase of it all, but he is an excellent Fletch.
Yeah.
And I want to see more of those because I feel like that movie was just horrifically underrated. So definitely. Anyway, we want to know. Leave in the comments. What are your thoughts on A Shot in the Dark? And who would you cast as Clouseau? Who would you have as your director? And who would you have as your composer? So leave those polite comments below. If this is your first time to the Geek Salad Retro Review channel, welcome. We do this every week, so you can check out all of our movie reviews simply by hitting that subscribe button. Give this video a big thumbs up as well, because it helps us in the algorithm, which is really where it all counts. Also, Mike and I host a little podcast called Geek Salad. You can check that out wherever you get your podcast. So Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, until that goes away next year, I was just informed.
Really?
Yeah.
Dang, that's what I started using after Spotify went away.
After Stitcher went away?
Yeah.
Yeah, now I'm gonna end up back at Spotify. I didn't want to, but I'm gonna have to now.
I don't even have a Spotify account, so
you don't need it if you're doing podcasts.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so that's happening. So enjoy it while you can. We also put our audio on this YouTube channel here. So if that's your deal, go ahead and listen to them here. Have fun with that. There are no ads either because no one will have us. So you don't even have to worry about an ad. Ads interrupting anything and us talking about Casper mattresses or AG1 or anything like that. So, or those goddamn Fiji ads I get at the beginning of every one of my podcasts for Fiji Airways. I want to firebomb Fiji because of those damn ads. You can also follow us on the socials. We are on Facebook at Geek Salad Podcast. We are also at X, Twitter, dead naming Twitter, Blue Sky, and Threads at Geek Salad Radio. So you can check us out there. So next month, it's a new month. Guess what month that is?
It's Spooktober.
Woo! So we haven't announced the order of the movies yet because we haven't figured out what the order of the movies are going to be yet. But we are heading back to the decade of both of our births, and we are going back to the 1970s to, in my opinion, probably the best decade for horror.
Okay.
At least we get different horror than when I think 80s, I think, that's where we get the slasher movies. That's where we get all of that. But realistically speaking, they're all variations of the same thing.
Yeah. 70s were more almost art house horror.
Yes. Yes. And we are going to be talking about some of them. Some huge hits, some cult favorites. But we are going back to the 70s to do our horror look back. We will be doing that next week. We haven't figured out the movie yet, but you will see that as you see it. You can also follow Geek Salad on Letterboxd as well. You can kind of get a sneak preview of what movie we're doing because I post my reviews as they happen, because that's just what I do. So anyway, I think that's about it, Mike. So Kurt, thanks for joining us. Thanks for reminding us about Confess Fletch. And until next time, I'm Andy.
I'm Mike.
Go forth and be nerdful. Talk to you later.